So Ben Shapiro is naturally very happy that the Supreme Court just limited gay rights in a decision involving a web designer who wouldn't make a wedding site for a gay couple. He either doesn't know or doesn't care that apparently all of the facts of the case appear to be utterly made up. This should have been thrown out on day one because this person doesn't have standing. But nonetheless, he proceeds. He has his agenda and he's going to hammer it no matter what. So he comes out and makes, honestly, one of the dumbest arguments I've ever heard in my life vis-a-vis gay rights. Listen to this.
Now, to be fair, there's confusion that arises when it comes to LGBT issues. Why? Well, because that's a question of self-identity. How would you even know if somebody walked into your business and they were gay unless they told you they were gay? I mean, that is literally the only way that you would know, or in fact, they asked you to do a message for gay marriage.
That second point is the more important point, right? In certain cases, the gayness is central to the product or service being provided, right? And that's why this is a legal issue. But putting that aside, even the idea like, you can't even tell, bro, if somebody's gay, bro. Oftentimes you can. Not every time, but oftentimes you can. And I think many people are in that camp, and there might be some hostility towards some people if they appear a certain way or act a certain way, etc.
That is literally the only way that you would know, or in fact, they asked you to do a message for gay marriage, or they explained to you that they were married to another person of the same sex. There are a lot of people who have various characteristics who are gay. The gay community is, in fact, not quite as stereotypical as TV would make it out to be, which means that very often, quote-unquote, discrimination against a gay person is not, in fact, discrimination against a gay person. It's discrimination against behavior that is conducted by a person who happens to be gay. That is not the same thing at all.
Ben, I don't care why you're a bigot. I care about the outcome of your bigotry, and I want to protect against it in the law. That seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But that other point he makes, too, is actually the even dumber one, in my opinion. Let me play it again.
Very often, quote-unquote, discrimination against a gay person is not, in fact, discrimination against a gay person. It's discrimination against behavior that is conducted by a person who happens to be gay. That is not the same thing.
Okay. That's like, and Sam Cedar actually pointed this out on Twitter. I think it's a good argument. It's like saying, I'm not bigoted against Jews. I'm just against the faith that involves a yarmulke and the Torah and the practice of prayer, etc. I think Ben would look at that and say, nah, that seems like you're just a bigot against Jews, right? But he tries to draw this arbitrary distinction when it comes to gay people. Like, no, it's not that you're gay. It's that you're acting gay or doing gay things or have the behavior of a gay person or are with somebody of the same sex. It's like, at the end of the day, that is the exact same thing. And the whole point is, you need to protect it under law if there's discrimination against that, because it is arbitrary discrimination on a characteristic that they can't help. But you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. As dumb as you think it's going to get, wrong. It's going to be dumber. Listen.
It's discrimination against behavior that is conducted by a person who happens to be gay. That is not the same thing at all. And that's the point the court is making. This is, by the way, a major distinction that has never been properly drawn in the law, but needs to be drawn in the law. The gay rights movement has claimed they're the new civil rights movement. These are absolutely disparate movements. They are not alike in any way, shape, or form. The black civil rights movement was about the idea that you have an immutable characteristic that is not behaviorally based. Your race. It has nothing to do with your behavior. It has nothing to do with your feelings. You're black, whether you feel black or whether you don't feel black. Whether you, quote unquote, act black or whether you don't act black, obviously. In fact, there is no such thing as, quote unquote, acting black other than stereotypes. That is not the same thing when it comes to issues of sexual orientation, which is about interior feeling. It is about behavior in the real world. And that is why putting LGBT as members of a quote-unquote protected class under anti-discrimination law starts to get into very dicey activity as far as forcing other people to accept a behavior, not an actual objective state of the world that is visible to everyone else.
Being gay, for anybody who's gay, it is an objective state of the world. It is an objective fact about themselves. Guys, his argument, and you can't make this up. His argument is being black is an immutable characteristic, but being gay isn't. So it's okay to discriminate against gay people where it's not against black people. You think being gay is not an immutable characteristic? by that logic, you think it's a choice for everybody, right? You think somebody could just decide, hey, you know what? I like pussy today. That's not a thing. Oh my God. This is such a bad argument. It just requires having a bare minimum cognition in this world that we live in. Guys, remember that Lady Gaga song which got huge? Born This Way? One of the reasons it got huge, I mean, it was Lady Gaga, right? And she's a massive superstar. But, like, the message is true. Now, maybe you can make a counter argument that it's not, quote unquote, born that way, but your sexuality develops sort of in your early childhood, but when it develops after that, it is concrete, man. It is set. It's not changing, right? Think about yourself, right? You're into what you're into who you're into, certain kinds of things, etc. That ain't changing, dog. You can't wake up and like, I'm going to shake it off. I'm just going to pick I'll pick a new fetish. No big deal, bro. No, you're into what you're into. You're into who you're into. So either you're born that way, which I think is probably the most likely, or for whatever reason in early childhood, your sexuality develops, but it's sort of when it sets, it's sort of unchangeable. So either way, being gay or being straight or being bi or whatever, this is an objective fact of your own nature. And so it absolutely coincides with somebody having a particular race or ethnicity or what have you. Like, I can't fathom, it's hard for me to fathom anybody actually disagrees with that in good faith. Which gets to the point about Ben, maybe it's not in good faith. Maybe he's not in good faith at all. Maybe he twists himself into this pathetic, anti-intellectual pretzel in order to justify his religiously grounded bigotry. Because remember, he's super Jewish, right? Like he is a believer in Judaism, and he practices. And in the same way you see it with that, you see it with Christianity, you see it with Islam. The fundamentalists really are anti-gay. It is part and parcel of the ideology. So he's probably working backwards from that, and he has this tortured logic about, no, it's not discrimination against gay people, it's discrimination against the behavior of somebody who's gay. But it's not because of the gayness, it's because of the behavior. Well, if you're gay, sort of by definition, there's some behavior you're going to engage in, like being with somebody of the same sex, right? And he says, no, that's behavior, and I'm against that. Well, I don't care if you're against it. Again, that's the point. Guys, okay. When it comes to think of civil rights, like he brings up, the argument was the business owner doesn't have the freedom to say, I don't want to serve your kind. Why? Because it is arbitrary discrimination against a characteristic they can't help. So a good example, and I brought this one up before, but let's say your car breaks down in the middle of a white area of Mississippi and you're a black family, and you have to walk 5 miles to the nearest gas station to try to get help, and they look at you and they say, we don't help your kind. Well, then what do, right? What are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? Are they just supposed to die in scorching heat because they can't walk all the way to the next gas station where they might even get turned down there for help with their car that broke down on the road? I think any reasonable person will look at that and say, no, you should be required to help these people. You should be required to treat them like anybody else. You can't hold their race against them in that scenario. We'll just take the same set of facts, but use a gay person, right? A gay couple, and they show up at, their car breaks down in the middle of an area that's very conservative, and they show up at the nearest gas station after walking 5 miles in the scorching heat, and they go, hey, we need your help. Our car broke down. The dude takes one look at them and goes, we don't serve your kind. Is that okay? Is that fair? Is that acceptable? I don't think it is. So, Ben, do yourself a favor, man. Try harder or just drop the rank bigotry. Because there is no, intellectual backing for this position. Not even close. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.